The sun hung low over the Judean Desert, casting long shadows across the parched earth. You can almost smell the dust kicked up by thousands of boots, hear the distant clang of metal on stone, and then silence. A silence so heavy it presses down like the weight of an empire. On the plateau above, figures move in the fading light, their whispers carried on the wind. A man stands before them, his voice steady but urgent, painting a picture of what awaits if they fall into Roman hands. The men nod grimly. The women clutch their children closer, and then, one by one, they make their choice. Not surrender, not chains, something far more defiant. But that wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a story that echoes through time, a tale of a machine built for conquest, and the people who refused to feed it. This wasn't random cruelty. This was Rome at its most efficient, a system designed to break not just bodies, but spirits. In the year we now call 73 AD, after the flames of Jerusalem had cooled, the Roman legions turned their gaze to a lone fortress rising from the desert like a defiant fist, Masada. Here, a band of Jewish rebels held out against the might of an empire that had already crushed their holy city. The stakes? Survival versus erasure. What happened on that mountaintop wasn't just a siege, it was a collision between unbreakable will and unstoppable force. And at its heart, the fear of what Roman victory truly meant for the innocent caught in between. Stay with me, because beneath the heroism lies a darker truth about power and how it devours everything in its path. But before we climb that ramp, let's step back. The Roman Empire in the 1st century stretched from the misty forests of Britain to the sands of Egypt, a vast web of roads, legions, and taxes that kept the machine running. At its center sat the emperor, but in the provinces, governors and generals pulled the strings. Judea, that stubborn corner of the world, had been simmering for years. Taxes too high, customs trampled, and a people who worshipped one god clashing with an empire that deified its rulers. The spark? A revolt in 66 AD, when Jewish fighters rose up against Roman rule, seizing Jerusalem and dreaming of independence. Enter Titus. Son of the Emperor Vespasian, he was the hammer sent to crush the uprising. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the calculated gaze of a man bred for command. Titus had seen battle before, but this war would define him. He led the legions that besieged Jerusalem in 70 AD, a city swollen with refugees and defenders. The siege was brutal starvation, catapults hurling stones day and night, and when the walls finally cracked, the streets ran red. Historians debate the numbers, but estimates put the dead at over 1 million, with tens of thousands sold into slavery. Titus didn't start as a monster. Born in Rome around 39 AD, he grew up in the shadow of power, serving in the military from a young age. A formative moment came early, witnessing his father's rise during the chaotic year of the 4 emperors in 69 AD. Vespasian seized the throne, and Titus learned that mercy was a luxury empires couldn't afford. Weakness invited rebellion. Strength ensured obedience, and then Jerusalem fell. Titus ordered the temple burned, they say, though some accounts claim he tried to save it. Either way, the flames lit the sky, and with them, the heart of Jewish resistance seemed to die. But not quite. A few holdouts scattered, including a group led by a fierce warrior named Eleazar. Eleazar wasn't just a fighter, he was a Sicarii, one of those dagger-wielding zealots who struck from the shadows. His band fled to Masada, a fortress built by Herod the Great decades earlier, a natural stronghold atop a sheer cliff, stocked with food and water for years. Here, they vowed to live free or not at all. The turning point for Rome? Reports of these rebels raiding nearby villages, keeping the flame of revolt alive. Titus, now back in Rome, celebrating his triumph, left orders. Finish it. His general, Flavius Silva, would lead the final push. The machine demanded closure. The desert air shimmers with heat as Silva's legion arrives. Imagine it, nearly 9,000 men, the core from the 10th Legion, hardened by years of war, plus auxiliaries from conquered lands. They set up camps around the base of the mountain, a ring of tents and walls that seals off any escape. Up top, Eleazar and his people, about 960 in all, including families, watch from the ramparts. Among them, a woman we'll call Miriam. In her 30s, with calloused hands from weaving and a quiet strength honed by loss. Her husband had fallen in Jerusalem, leaving her with 2 young sons. She wasn't a warrior, but like many there, she tended the gardens, mended clothes, and whispered prayers for deliverance. Miriam represented the heart of Masada, not the fighters, but the lives they protected. Silva surveys the cliffs. Masada rises over 1,000 feet, its sides like sheer walls carved by some ancient god. Herod had fortified it with palaces, storehouses, and cisterns that caught every drop of rain. The rebels had enough grain, dates, and oil to last months, maybe years, but Rome specialized in patience. Silva orders the construction of a circumvallation wall over 2 miles long, dotted with towers to prevent raids or supplies. The men grumble in the heat, but they know the drill. This is the system at work. Engineers plot, soldiers build, and the enemy starves. Weeks pass. The Romans probe for weaknesses, but the cliffs defy them. Then Silva spots at a spur on the western side, lower than the rest. "Build the ramp," he commands. Thousands of slaves, many captured Jews, haul dirt and stones under the whip. The ramp grows, a massive earthwork snaking up the mountainside. Archers cover the workers, trading shots with rebels above. Eleazar's men roll boulders down, but the ramp rises inexorably. Miriam watches from the plateau, her boys playing nearby, oblivious to the doom approaching. She hears the stories from Jerusalem, how Titus's soldiers, once inside the walls, spared no one in their fury. Old men crucified, children dashed against stones. And the women. Whispers of violation, of being dragged away as spoils. She shudders, pulling her sons close. But that wasn't the worst part. The ramp nears completion, and Silva prepares the assault tower, a wooden behemoth on wheels, armored against fire. The Romans batter the casemate wall, a double layer of defense. Eleazar rallies his fighters. "We fight for our freedom, for our God." Skirmishes erupt, arrows fly, but the breach widens. Night falls, and the rebels gather. Eleazar stands before them, his voice cutting through the tension. He speaks of Roman mercy as a lie, of the fate awaiting if they surrender. "Our wives abused," he says, "our children enslaved." The crowd murmurs. Miriam feels a chill despite the desert warmth. She's seen enough to know he's right. The system doesn't conquer, it humiliates. Shift to the Roman camp below. A centurion named Lucius wipes sweat from his brow, sharpening his gladius. He's served under Titus since the Jerusalem siege, where the orders were clear. Take what you will, but break their spirit. Lucius remembers the chaos, the screams, the blood. Women pleading as soldiers claimed their rewards. It was policy, unspoken but understood. Victory meant plunder, and in war, bodies were currency. Silva addresses the troops. "Tomorrow, we end this. The emperor expects no loose ends." The men cheer, but Lucius feels a twinge. These rebels fought hard. Still, orders are orders. The machine rolls on. Up top, the mood darkens. Eleazar proposes the unthinkable. Better to die free than live as slaves. He recounts tales from other sieges, Gamala, where women threw themselves from cliffs to escape violation. Jotapata, where survivors were paraded in chains. The assembly debates, voices rising. Some argue for a last stand, but Eleazar presses, "Let us deny them their triumph." Miriam listens, heart pounding. Her boys sleep nearby, innocent in the firelight. She thinks of her life before the war, a simple home in Judea, weaving cloth for the market. Now, this. Tears come, but so does resolve. One by one, the men agree. They draw lots for the grim task. The night deepens. Families huddle, sharing final words. A quiet moment here, a father telling his daughter stories of David and Goliath. The air scented with olive oil from lamps. Laughter mixes with sobs, a breather amid the storm. Miriam kneels with her sons, explaining in gentle terms. "We're going to a better place," she whispers. But doubt creeps in. Is this right? The Torah forbids suicide. Yet what choice? The ramp looms like a serpent ready to strike. Dawn breaks. The Romans advance, the tower rumbling up the ramp. Battering rams thud against the inner wall. Flames licking at wooden beams, the rebels set ablaze as a last defense. Silva watches from below, confident. Titus's victory will be complete. But as the breach opens, no arrows greet them, no shouts, just smoke and silence. The legionaries pour in, swords drawn, expecting resistance. Instead, bodies. Hundreds, laid out in orderly rows, men beside wives, parents cradling children, throats slit, the work done with care. Lucius steps over them, stomach turning. What madness is this? In a cavern below, Miriam hides with another woman and 5 children, water dripping in the dark. They hear the Romans above, the shouts of discovery. Eleazar's plan worked for most, but these few chose life to tell the tale, perhaps. The women emerge, hands raised. Silva questions them. They recount the night, the speech, the lots, the farewells. 960 dead by their own hands, denying Rome its parade of captives. The general nods, impressed despite himself. Brave fools, he mutters. The survivors are taken, but not harmed, immediately spoils for the empire. The aftermath unfolds swiftly. Silva reports to Titus, now emperor after his father's death. Masada falls. The revolt ends. The 10th Legion garrisons the site briefly, then abandons it to the desert winds. For the rebels' community, its erasure families gone, a way of life scattered. Survivors like Miriam? History doesn't record her fate precisely, but many captives ended in Roman arenas or households, their stories silenced. Power shifts. Rome tightens control over Judea, renaming it Palestina to erase Jewish ties. An ironic twist, the fortress built by Herod, a Roman puppet, becomes a symbol of resistance against that same empire. Centuries pass, the sands bury the truth. Then, in the 20th century, discovery. Archaeologist Yigael Yadin leads excavations in the 1,960 seconds, uncovering palaces, scrolls, and artifacts. Spindle whorls and hairnets speak of women's lives amid the siege. The ramp still stands, a testament to Roman engineering. Skeletons in a cave 25, including women and children, hint at the final act, though numbers don't match Josephus's account perfectly. Historians debate, was it mass suicide or Roman slaughter? Josephus, the Jewish turncoat who wrote the only eyewitness history, might have embellished for drama, yet the evidence aligns enough. The pottery, the coins stamped with, "For the freedom of Zion." Yadin's team finds lots, ostraca with names, perhaps used in that fateful drawing. Why does it matter now? This wasn't just ancient drama. It teaches about systems that grind people down and the desperate acts to preserve dignity. Think of modern parallels. Besieged cities where civilians choose death over subjugation, echoes in conflicts where power ignores humanity. Masada reminds us that resistance comes in many forms, not always victory, but refusal to be broken. The universal truth? Empires fall, but stories endure, carried by those who listen. Back to that plateau, the sun setting once more. The figures fade, but their choice lingers. They were meant to vanish, footnotes in Rome's triumph, but they didn't. Through whispers in caverns, through ink on scrolls, through stones unearthed, they survive. And now, they're here with you, because you chose to listen. If this story moved you, share in the comments. What would you have done on that mountaintop? Subscribe for more echoes from the past. And in the silence that follows, remember, freedom isn't given, it's taken, even from the jaws of defeat.